Hello guys and welcome back to Repair and Resell. In today's video we're taking a look at this PS5 controller. Basically today we're gonna make a tutorial on how to open these controller without giving them any damage. So first thing you can notice is that there is not any screw visible on that controller. It's mean that Sony decided to hide them really well. First thing you want to do is you can take a kind of small flathead screwdriver like I have, or a plastic tool if you want, and we will want to remove the L1 and the R1 button. So just like this, you pry them a little bit up on each side and they will pop out like that. Don't worry, it's normal if they go away just like it did on my side. And you do that for the other one, and here we go. So once it's removed, you can see that there was the one screws on each side that were hidden by the buttons. And the other thing you want to remove right here is basically this black part right here, and basically you want to remove it from the bottom and lift it toward the tops, and it will slide out easily. But there is a lot of clip underneath, so it can be a bit difficult. Some people can do it only with their hand, but on my side I need a plastic tool. I will try this one. So just like that, as you can see. So it pop up pretty easily, just like this one. So I'm gonna do the other side, because you want to lift the piece at the same time. Just like that. And now I will continue with my hand a little bit. As you can see, it's... Hey! Remember that? Well, my cat decided that these buttons were the new perfect toy for him, so be careful if you have an animal, because you can either lose the button, or maybe it could be dangerous for your animal health. As you can see, it's starting to pop up a little bit. Now I'm gonna use the plastic tool again, and I'm just gonna slide it in like this to do the rest of the job, just like this. And now with my hand, and here we go, one part is removed. It's as easy as that. And now we have access to all the screws. So what you need to, in order to remove the screw, is simply a Phillips head screwdriver. So you remove the two that were at the bottom here, and the two at the top that I already showed you. So, and don't forget to put the screws in a little container or something like that to make sure that you doesn't lose them. And if you lose them, what you need to know is that these screws are exactly the same as the one on the PS4 controller. So if you have some spare that from broken controller or anything, or a controller that you didn't use and that you lose some screws, well, you can use them to replace them, and we will not even notice that it's not from the original PS5 controller. Once all the screws are removed, basically we will do the same technique as we do on the PS4 controller to open it up. So, Sony kind of use a similar technology in order to do so. They clips them on the side, so you need to insert a plastic tool right there, and you need to go all the way up. Just like that, so it open up right here. And we do the same thing on the other side, just like that, so it open up right here. And actually, when we are going for the part like this way, we actually see the clips where they are, because we remove the black part, so it's a bit easier to open this side of the controller. So I'm just gonna try to do it like this, prying it up a little bit, and we're gonna do the other one, the other clips, just like that. And here we go. So on this controller there is no ribbon cable, but it's still a bit hard to remove because of the trigger. So what you want to do, you want to lift up the leg first, a little bit like that. It will give you some wiggle room, and then once it's lifted up a little bit like this, you will try to pass the top of the controller with your other hand, one side at a time, just like this. And when one side pop off, you try to pop off the other side, and you continue like this, step by step, until until you can take it out, just like this. And for the last step, the trigger need to be held down a little bit, just to make sure we can pass it over. So on the PS5 controller, the charge port is attached directly to the motherboard, so there is no ribbon cable going around that you need to be careful of when you remove this part. So this one we're gonna put it aside, and now here is the main controller. So what you're gonna need to do now is you're gonna need to take your pair of tweezers, because there is a lot of things to remove in order to go further in your attempt to disassemble this controller. First thing you're gonna do, you're gonna remove the battery. Make sure to only pull on the white part, not on the more yellowish part that is soldered to the motherboard, because if you do that, well, you will need to resolder it, and it's not fun to do that. So we're just gonna start by removing the battery. So we grab it by the battery connector and we just wiggle it a little bit like that, and it pops out. So the battery can now be removed. Now there is one another Phillips head screw that is right there, that is holding this black part here. And now the black part can be removed. I usually take it by this side, I remove it like this, but when you remove it, be really careful, because there is that little microphone right here that is attached to it. What I like to do, I just like to remove it just by flipping it like this. It should fall off, but don't yank it off if it doesn't work. You can always detach it here, but I won't do it in this video because I prefer to let it attach there. So now, once you're there, you can take your pair of tweezers again, because you will need to remove the ribbon cable that are there on the side, on each side of the controller, and there is one here also at the back. So we can start by the little one. I can do it with my hand, this one, and we will go for the one for the touchpad, just like this. It's all removed. One for these one can be a bit more difficult. So the one on the side for the adaptive trigger, here we go, this one is removed, and now we're gonna do the other one right there. Sometimes I just wiggle it back and forth just to loosen them a bit. And now that all the ribbon cable have been removed, what I do is that I usually press the controller on the ground, if we can say so. So just the motherboard lift up, because the thumbstick are sticking out of it. Then you can flip the motherboard just like that, and you have again some screws. These are the only screws that are different on this one. You have two silver screws here. They are longer than the black screws, and you can remove them. This is basically holding the black inner frame of the controller. Also, there is two black screws on each side right here, one here and one here. You also need to remove them in order to be able to access the rest of the controller. And now that these other screws are removed, you can simply gently lift this up. Also be careful, because the cable for the touchpad here tend to get jammed in the black frame. So now that is apart, this is the part you need to check if you have problem with your button. These are pretty easy to access now that everything is removed. For example, here is the D-pad. You can do the same thing with all the buttons around, the microphone at the bottom, and other buttons are also there. And what's something that is new with this controller is that the touchpad is a bit more accessible. If you want to take a look at the touchpad, basically all you need to do is you need to remove the two screws that are here, and once they are removed, you will have access to it. This is basically the only way to remove the touchpad from the controller. So I'm not putting them in the pod, because I'm gonna reassemble this part as soon as we take it off, just like that. As you can see the inner of the touchpad. Basically, they decide to put the button right here when you press the touchpad, so it's pretty easy. And that black part can also be removed, just like that. So for the moment, I will just reassemble this part, because we don't need to go further for this one. And as you can see, once the screws are back in place, the touchpad will not fall off. It's really stuck in place once the screws are back, unlike the PS4 controller. So I'm gonna put this part aside and we're gonna check the rest of the controller to see what you can disassemble more. What is left here to disassemble? Basically, you will have the new adaptive trigger that Sony just did, and that are brand new with the Dualsense. I will just remove one of them to show it to you, and we will take the R2 and R1 buttons right there. Basically, in order to remove them, Sony put on some more screws. They are right here on each side. There is two of them holding the adaptive trigger in place. They doesn't want them to go away, so they put screws everywhere in that controller in order to secure everything. So once the screws are removed, here is what you will have in your end. And this part can be disassembled further. Maybe if you have problem with, I don't know, your trigger or your R1 button, maybe it will be useful. So first thing you want to do, you want to grab a pair of tweezers again, and we will disconnect this blue connector right here. Basically what we want to do is there is like two little tabs on each side of it. We're gonna take our pair of tweezers and we're gonna pull gently on it just to lift it up like that. Just like that, and it will reveal an idle screw just behind it right there. And in order to access the rest of the trigger mechanism, we will need to remove it. And again, they are all the same size, all the black screws are the same size, so I'm going to put it in the pot with the other. And on the other side, there will be 3 other screws, one here, and one here, to remove them also. And once the screws are removed, this can just be lifted up like this, and it reveals the adaptive trigger mechanism. Just like that, we can remove them, and I will explain how it works when I will reassemble it in a few minutes. What I want to show you here is that the R2 button is actually held in place by this pin right here, this silver pin. So if you want to access below it, you need to remove it. Usually what I do is I take a pair of tweezers and I will try to remove it just by pulling on it. It can take a few attempts, just like that. So here we go, the pin has been removed and the button will lift up pretty easily, just like that. And underneath, if you ever have problem with your button, you can see the conductive pad, and as we can see, they are a bit different than the conductive pad on the PS4 controller. They make a new one for the trigger, which is different. Maybe they are more resistance. Here's a bit of white thingy. So just like that, I will show you a PS4 one, just in case some of you are interested, but they are quite different. So here is the PS4 one. So here is the one for the trigger right here. The one for the R1 button is basically the same. This is not what is different. It's basically this one right here, as you can see. Or maybe this one is just cheaper to make for them. Only the future will tell us if the PS5 controller is more resistant than the PS4 one. So we're gonna put back this in, and what is nice also is that you have the conductive film that you can change right here if there is ever a problem with it. So it's pretty nice that you don't have to buy all the other ones. So that's a bit great for that part of it. So I'm gonna put it back in place, and I'm gonna just press all around it to make sure it do a good contact. Just like that, it seemed pretty well. So now I'm gonna show you how to reassemble this part, because it can be pretty tricky to do so. I struggled a little bit when I first did it. First, you see that little spring right here on the side, and in that angle I think you can see it on the side. It's really important that it goes underneath the R2 button, otherwise it could cause it to malfunction. So you check it here on the side and you make sure it's underneath, just like that. This seems good. Then you align it here. you try to align it for the pin in order to go in, while making sure the spring is on at the right place. It can be a bit difficult. So here we go. I think we have it a little bit good. So you put the pin in and you push it through. Make sure the spring is in correctly again. Oops, sorry, here we go, it's in correctly. And now it's just to make it fit through the other hole. Finding the good angle, because it's still a bit out of place. Here we go, now it's good. You see, pin is back in place and there's nothing else to do. If the pin is too much out of the trigger, you will have difficulty to reassemble the rest of the mechanism once you try it. So for the rest of the mechanism, as I tell you, you have this little wheel right here, just like that goes like here. And as you can see, there is not small dent in it all the way around. Basically, there is one side that is completely flat, if we can say so. So it's important that the little dent goes more toward the bottom, in order for the other pins that has some dents in it too to fit correctly. So it goes like this, with the little springy at the top, and clips it in just like that. You see, that's basically the adaptive trigger mechanism, and when you push it, that's what gives the resistance. With the little motor right here, it's making spins that other wheel, which apply some pressure, and it's making the resistance you need when you play the game. So that's basically it. After that, all you need to do, make sure everything is pushed in correctly, and then you can put back the final part, put back the screws, and whatever you were doing for your repair, it's good for it. And another tip that I want to give you for this part is when you put back those little connectors, it can be a bit tricky to do. So what I like to do is I like to try to slide it in with my hand first, just to put them in place. And then I like to enter them with the pair of tweezers gently. Don't want to squeeze them, you just want to make them fit in their hole. So I'm trying just like that, and here we go, it's back in just like it was before. This can be the tricky part, along with the other one that you need to do when you need to put them back on the main motherboard. Also, when you are going to put back the motherboard in the controller, if it's not going like one way with the cable, it's because you're on the wrong side of the controller. So make sure to do it the correct way in for it to fit. This can be a bit annoying and it can take some time before you realize it. So with these tips, I hope that you enjoyed this video and have a nice day.